What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. How is the form? I hope everyone is keeping wonderfully well. Well, here we go then. We're into the semi-finals of the Dublin Senior Football Championship. And it's kind of mad, to be honest, because we're in a lot of the knockout stages of various different championships this weekend. We're going into the knockout stages of the Mayo Senior Football Championship. We're going into the quarterfinals. And we've seen last weekend as well, we've seen various games going to penalties, going to extra time. It's kind of mad sometimes when you watch these club championships and you see games going to extra time. You see matches going to the distance, really. And could we see penalties in the Dublin Senior Football Championship this weekend? I'm not sure that we do, to be perfectly honest. Maybe we might in Ballyboden versus Nafina. That would certainly be an interesting one in many ways. But in terms of Kilmacud Crokes versus Thomas Davis, which is the game we're going to start with, I think Crokes have got way too much firepower here, in my opinion. Look, fair play to Thomas Davis for getting to the semi-finals. They got to the county final in 2019. I've been very impressed with sort of how far they've come in the Dublin Championship in the last couple of years. They were in the knockout stages last year, I believe, as well. They don't have any inter-county stars. They don't have any notable inter-county players in their team at all. There are a couple of good under-20 players, but they certainly don't have the talent pool that is Kilmacud Crokes. And, Kilmacud Crokes are obvious favourites for multiple reasons. I mean, they obviously got to the All-Ireland final last year. They have two players in the squad who are very much dominating the headlines week in, week out, and probably will continue to do so, regardless of how well they play, because of how big of a name that they both are, in Shane Walsh and Paul Mannion. Although Paul Mannion could be injured for this game, he may potentially have an injury because he did come off in the last game, so that could be a potential injury there. He was carried off. We haven't quite heard the status of him just yet, but But the thing is with Kilmacud Crokes is, even when Shane Walsh and Paul Mannion haven't been at the races and haven't been, not even been at the races, but, it's not all about them two. You've got Darragh Mullen, who I think is a very, very good club player. I've been calling for him to come into the Dublin team, or come back into the Dublin team. I really do think he could make an impact, in my opinion, for this Dublin side going into the championship next year, especially as a second half substitute, you could say. You've got Rory O'Carroll in at number 6. He's scoring at one end. He's keeping them out at another end. I think he's been brilliant. Dan O'Brien, very, very good in a cornerback, or even in a fullback as well, has done a great job for Kilmacud Crokes the last couple of seasons. Diaz around midfield, Tom Fox in behind. So Kilmacud Crokes, they just have far too much firepower. I haven't seen enough of Thomas Davis to really sort of look at matchups and say who might pick up Shane Walsh. One potential matchup I would be interested in is maybe Adam Waddock going up against Craig Diaz. Adam Waddock, I think, is a player a lot more people are going to be hearing of in the future. I think there's a potential for another midfielder to break through for Dublin in the next couple of years. Adam Waddock could be that guy. He really, really could. I think he's an absolute unit of a bloke, let's be honest. The size of him, especially when you're looking on the TV as well, he's a huge, huge guy. And, he's going to cause a big presence in around that middle. And I think, that has been one of the areas of strengths from what I've seen of Thomas Davis in the last couple of years and from what I've heard of them this season. And obviously haven't seen that game versus Castleknock as well. I think Fionn Murray could cause a couple of problems for Kilmacud Crokes. I'd imagine they'll sit in. They'll make life as difficult as possible for Crokes. But the big problem that Thomas Davis have, and a lot of other teams have, Coola as well, is that you can sit in against this Kilmacud Crokes side. You can be defensive, but you've got Shane Walsh who can pick scores from 30, 40 yards. If Mannion's playing, he can do so as well. And you've got so many problems to worry about. Darragh Mullen, Aidan Jones, Tom Fox, Shane Cunningham, Cian O'Connor coming off the bench. And Crokes' bench, again, always seems to make a big impact, whether it is Cian O'Connor, Shane Cunningham, who came off the bench against Coola and made a big impact. So I just think Kilmacud Crokes here are going to have way too much firepower for Thomas Davis. I'd love to see Thomas Davis do it, a team from Tala, the underdogs, really. I'd love to see them do something special. But at the same time, I think a lot of us want to see more of Shane Walsh, more of Paul Mannion, more of this Kilmacud Crokes side. And I think we will get that. I think Crokes are going to win this one by 6 points. Moving on from that, we have a much more even game on paper anyways, and that is Na Fianna versus Ballybowden St Enda's. Both have actually had very similar campaigns up to date. Both won their groups very comfortably, as a matter of fact. Both have been free scoring in terms of goals. They've been putting teams away in the group stages and came up against lesser opposition on paper in the quarterfinals, but just about got over the line. And actually, in a matter of fact, both sides almost threw the games away right at the death. So both sides are coming in similar circumstances. Na Fianna obviously watched them against Whitehall. I thought Whitehall had them for the taking. I really, really do. I thought Na Fianna were good defensively. Owen Merchant, I thought, had a good game. I thought was decent at times as well. Owen O'Donnell had a lot of ball in that game. He was winning a lot of ball in the first half. He got himself into great positions, I think 6 or 7 times in the game without scoring, possibly even more. He created so many scoring chances. You wonder if he just had been, 50% more clinical than he was. I think we'd be talking about a Whitehall Comkill versus Ballybowden St Enda's semi-finals. I really, really do. Na Fianna, where it was a strange performance from them because they didn't look at their best. They never really put their foot on the throttle. Conor McHugh won 3 the last day, won 2 of which from play. Impressive in the first half, quiet enough in the second half. But yeah, again, Na Fianna, they just didn't really, they looked in cruise control, and then all of a sudden, you're down to 14 men, you're giving away a penalty, Johnny Cooper gets sent off, and Na Fianna looked like they were in big, big trouble and just about managed to see the game out in the end. Brian O'Leary and David Lacey are 2 very good forwards in there as well. We obviously know the talent of Owen Merchant going forward. Aaron Byrne's been knocking on the door for the Dublin footballers in the last couple of seasons as well. So, Na Fianna have got a very young side, and they've been a team that a lot of people have been expecting to make the breakthrough in the Dublin Senior Football Championship. But the reality is I don't know, I'm just not convinced by them at this moment in time, to be perfectly honest. I think if they can get this win over Ballybowden, who are a very seasoned team, I think then maybe we could really start taking Na Fianna seriously about winning a county title. In terms of Ballybowden, though, I mean, they are, a bit like Kilmacud Crokes, veterans of Dublin club football. Very, very good club players in Colm and Ryan Basquel. We've seen the damage that they've done in the last couple of seasons for Ballybowden St Enda's. Michael Darragh Macaulay, interesting enough, has come back into the team sort of out of nowhere, and he featured quite heavily the last day as well. Warren Egan, Ross McGarry as well have looked very good from an attacking point of view. And when you've got Conal Keeney coming off the bench, scoring from the sideline, that's sort of mental, really. Scoring in the football one week and the hurling the next week. What a story it would be if Ballybowden St Enda's managed to pull off the double. In terms of this game, it's a hard one to call, but I just think Ballybowden, whilst they themselves actually nearly threw the game away against Ballantyre the last time out, they conceded a couple of late goals, and incredibly enough, I think they were like 9 or 10 points in front. And suddenly, before we knew it, was back to 2 or 3 points going into the final few minutes. But I just think Ballybowden are a little bit ahead of Na Fianna. I think Na Fianna have got, a very good talented forward in there, and Conor McHugh, who I think you will see in that Dublin side next year, or at least making an impact, performance coming off the bench. I just think Ballybowden have got that little bit more edge in them. It's a tough one though, because then again, Na Fianna have looked good defensively, and Ballybowden St Enda's, they conceded a lot against Ballantyre, and it's a hard one. I'm kind of nearly going back towards Na Fianna now. It's a very, very tough one to call this, to be honest with you. I'm going to edge towards Ballybowden, I think, by 2 points. I just think they've just a little bit more. They're a bit more seasoned, and it probably does lead towards a bit of a, predictable final in Ballybowden versus Kilmacud, but, I still think that makes for a very intriguing, exciting game as well. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I think Ballybowden and Kilmacud Crokes are going to have enough. I would love Na Fianna to get to the final as a Northsider myself. Certainly cheering for the Northside teams, even though they beat Whitehall the last day. But I would love to see Na Fianna do it. I really, really do. But I'm just not convinced by them. I've seen them a lot of the times in the last couple of years in big games and big moments, and they just haven't quite done it for me. But yeah, we'll obviously have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. My name's Aaron. Stay tuned for plenty of match reactions coming out this weekend in the club championships, actually. So I'll see you all later.